Welcome to our evening session here of our podcast.
Seth and Matt after hours. You never know what you're going to get from us at 8:30 p.m. Way past my bedtime.
I like it though. We'll mix it up, see how it goes. I like doing it in the evening, actually.
Yeah, I kind of like this too. It's nice. I feel like it frees up tomorrow. And I was honestly really excited about what we're going to chat about tonight. So I'm just excited to get it going.
Yeah, for sure. I know we missed 1 week and you're just rearing to go. You can't even wait until Tuesday. We got to do it on
I can't
Monday.
even wait. No, I was honestly, it was to the point where like, throughout the week, I'll just keep a Notion doc open and I'll be like writing stuff down. I'm like, oh, I'm really excited. And normally I would just text them to you because they're like, I'm so excited. I just want to tell you now. And I honestly had a couple times last week where I was like, I'm so excited about this. I just want to break protocol here and just text Seth about it and just talk about it right now.
Break the news.
Yeah, just start breaking the news. I also was chatting with Ryan Caradonna today. I thought no one was listening to this, but Ryan has been keeping up. So shout out to Ryan.
Ryan listens to every episode?
Apparently, well, I don't know every episode, but we were chatting
some.
today. Yeah, he said that he listened to the last few that we put out.
That's awesome.
So Ryan, I appreciate that. We've done, honestly, not as good of a job as we probably should be doing at boosting the pod. But Ryan, it's good to know you're listening.
Thank you so much, Ryan. That means a lot.
I think he's our official guesty bestie. We got to get him back on.
Sam was a guesty bestie also. We had Sam.
Sam was.
I think those were our only two guests.
Yeah, I think Miles is feeling a little left out. We got to get him in here at some point. He can talk about IOTA, about the Shimmer contract.
Yeah, he can explain Shimmer because I don't fully.
I don't get it either. Yeah.
Sorry, Miles, if you're listening. I'm trying to understand. I gotta take some time to understand it. But yeah, no, that's cool to hear. I don't know. I think the content is actually good. I think we can do something with this. We just gotta, I think it's just, slowly building on itself, building the momentum. We're getting better. We've got better equipment. Who knows?
It's all about the equipment.
We might have some visual effects at some point.
Oh, baby. Tell me more. But so here's something that actually resonated with me. And I wasn't thinking about this until you just said that, but I was listening to the Acquired guys interviewing Jason Calacanis. And one of the things that they mentioned talking about why they liked All In really resonated with me, which is such a basic call out, but they were basically just like, one of the reasons that the podcast works is that they just have chemistry. Like it's fun to listen to. It's not just like eating your vegetables, you're learning about the news. It's vegetables and candy at the same time. And I thought it was such a good way of thinking about it, where when we chat, it tends to feel like both. It feels like, oh, I'm learning something, but also I feel very, very entertained by this. And I think if anything, it's been like a challenge to try and translate all that into the podcast. But I think that's probably where we'll be at our best, is if we're just turning this into something that's both entertaining and very informative. And I actually really like the transition from away from topics into just, here's what we're thinking about this week. We have a Notion doc of like stray ideas that we have, and we just want to run them by each other. And I think that's where this is going to be at its best. So I'm excited to do more of that.
I agree too. I think that's a much better representation of like what we want to talk about just as friends, as opposed to forcing us to do research into, transportation and the future of transportation, which is also interesting. And maybe we can like sprinkle those in. And if anything, it could be interesting to sprinkle those in. But when we do them, actually do really good research into them. So they're high quality. Like if it's something that we're putting out there as a specific topic, I think having it be high quality would make sense. And then otherwise, I think it's much easier for us to just riff on different topics that we think are interesting. Like even like before this call, we started talking about Amp It Up, the book by Frank Slootman, and we were just going back and forth, and we're like, okay, we have to stop. We have to save it for the pod. So I think,
save some material for the pod.
I think that, yeah. So
either way, we're naming this episode "The Church of Slootman."
I love that. Yeah, let's do it. Cool. All right, why don't you go first? It seems like you're rearing to go.
Oh, I'm rearing, baby. Okay, so I have one idea and then an underlying question that I think is the real heat here, but I'm going to throw an idea by you. So we've been spending a lot of time thinking about AI and chatting about it. And I've started thinking about different business ideas for AI. Like where could this ultimately head? I think right now it's translating people's ideas and prompts into images. But one thing I think is a really interesting idea is that you could take some of the data about people and personalize specific experiences to them. And one I was thinking about in particular is clothes. Like one thing I think could be really interesting that you can do with AI, but you could never do before, is make clothes that are personally tailored to me, like my style based on my search history, where I shop, where I spend money based on my credit card transaction data, and produce clothes that are like exactly what I would want. And I'm sure that you could figure out how to connect the data in such a way where that would happen. And I think that the real like heat of this and the underlying question I wanted to ask was, we've had this whole debate about data privacy over the past few years, and thinking about it as something that we want to safeguard. Like, we don't want to expose our personal data because that is bad if people get a hold of it. But I'm wondering if AI, and if we specifically, if we can create these personalized, tailored, unique, really cool experiences based on your search history and based on your data, is that something that people are going to be willing to open up? Is there going to be a shift in how we think about data privacy away from, no, like we want it to be as secure as possible, to actually there are things that people can build based on my data, and I think that it is actually an asset and I'm willing to open it up?
Good question. So my initial thought there is it doesn't have to be either or. Like, AI using your data means that you don't have data privacy. There's like, just as an example, like I downloaded the Stable Diffusion model onto my MacBook. I'm able to run the Stable Diffusion model, and it's completely on my system. It's completely private. That data is not being shared anywhere. And I think and that's something that there was an article, I think I shared with you this article. I don't know what it was called, but
I think you did, and I didn't open it up yet. I just didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was just like, I found it because it was an article. It was Balaji retweeted it. I clicked on the article. Anyway, it was a really good explanation of like how AI works. And like, one of my takeaways was that like the part of AI that's really computationally intense is training the data, but running the model is actually not that computation. I mean, it's relatively, but it's like you can do it on your own computer. And like, as chips get better and better, like that's going to be easy. You're going to be able to run it on your own phone, and like it's going to be able to take your data that is your private data and run it on your own system. So I think the future is like, I think, yes, people are going to want to open up their own, like people's data will be used in these models, but I still think it's going to end up being relatively private. I think another point on that is, I think the direction we're going with like data is like opt in of, okay, if this is going to be useful for me, then I will share my data. But hopefully it'll just become a more intentional thing where it's people just have a little bit more understanding of when and when not they're opting into things. Maybe the way that you think about opting into push notifications, like on that level of kind of understanding.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that it's not going to be a trade-off. I do have a follow-up, or I have probably like 3 follow-up comments. One is to your comment on it's more expensive to train data than it is to actually like use the model once it's trained. I heard a really interesting stat today that Google spends more on training data than they do on like the cost of actually allowing people to use their models. And that was from a Ben Thompson interview with the guy who eventually led Github. He was the CEO of GitHub after Microsoft acquired them. One other guy who was like the head of ML for Apple, which is a really good interview. And I think it's worth listening to just to learn more about AI and what some opportunities might pop up. So that was one. 2 is more of an open question because I haven't played around with Stable Diffusion yet, but I'm wondering if it's going to be like a sustainable model to expect that people are going to download programs like that onto their computer and then plug in their own data versus like doing things in the cloud. And then further, like, is there going to be a trade-off in that case too? Or could you engage with apps in a way where like you could choose to expose your data, but the companies themselves could not warehouse it?
I think that like it's going to be for a while, like most of the apps are going to be in the cloud, because it's not going to be like you need a MacBook M1 like computer or more powerful to run this app. And it is going to, a lot of them are going to be in the cloud. I think, what was it like, is there going to be some understanding of like people, can it be private but also be in the cloud? I don't know. I would guess probably. Yeah. The other thing, like there's a really good, I think I texted this to you, but there's a website called computerrender.com, and the R is on both sides. There's only one R, like where render starts. And it's a really simple API that lets you use Stable Diffusion. So like if I were ever to build an AI app, I would use it, and it's really cheap. Just talking about like, okay, and I think most apps are going to use something like this to run it in the cloud. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is cool. So you've used this before? Like you've integrated this into a Bubble app?
Yeah, I did. Like it's
you can just hit their API and then
easy. Yeah,
that's cool. And so what are the parameters? Like you send them a query and then they'll send you back an image, is what it sounds like?
Basically, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Wow, that's really fascinating. What do you think about the business idea itself though? Personalized style. Like
So
you could basically have it would basically like understand what your style is by looking at your search history, credit card transaction data. It's like, all right, cool. This guy shops at these places. I'm going to create clothes specifically for him, and then he can like order them and they'll go directly to him.
Yeah, I think that I like the idea of personalized style. I think that the way I would go about it, like, I don't think there's so much value in scraping credit card data and browsing history as much as there is in just like a little quiz where you like say what you like, and then based on what you like, it's going to generate more and more things like that. So that, to me, the idea of using your data in order to like create clothes, I think isn't necessary necessarily, but I do really like the idea of using AI for personalized style. There's actually, I've seen 2 sites come up recently that is like AI interior design. Have you seen these?
Yeah. There was
Yeah.
one by Levels IO. Yeah.
Yeah, one's by him, and then there's another one. I think it's, so someone created a site called image.computer, and then they created a version of that is just for interior design, I guess. But yeah, what do you think of that?
I think it's a really smart idea. And I think the underlying concept is really similar, which is like where my mind was going with it was, instead of having a company spend this like whole lead time trying to come up with designs, pay a bunch of designers, pay for inventory, put something on a website, let you react to it, maybe even let you like order it and try it on and then decide that you don't like it. What if instead you could flip it on its head and say, like, why don't you tell us what you want? And then we'll just make it for you whenever you tell us. And is there a model that could work to support that? And I think it's probably similar for interior design or whatever, where you, instead of people like making products or like delivering some service ahead of time, could it figure out what you want digitally and then like provide you exactly what you want based on what you inputted? And then for interior design, it probably works even better because like a lot of the stuff's already made and there's enough out there where it could just like match stuff to you after the fact and figure out what your style is and be like, all right, cool. Here are like the 3 different couches. Pick the one that you want.
Right. Yeah. And I think one, yeah, like maybe there's even some future where you have a 3D printer that's just like prints you a lamp that the AI just created.
Yeah.
Like that is going to be the future. Like you probably will literally create your own. Everything's going to be so personalized. Like everyone, that's a very interesting future where like physical, because of AI. Like I never really thought about that before because I always thought about I thought 3D printing like physical things would be similar to the concept we similar going to a store where everyone's going to buy the same brand of couch. But no, it could very easily be a like completely unique to you.
That's what I'm saying. This is why my mind was blown. I was totally blown away by this idea that you could just have everyone out there basically have things that are perfectly tailored to them. And you could even like, you could have influencers that come out and are like, hey, you can shop my style. And if people come out, but you're like almost just disrupting the entire design industry.
Which is analogous to what's that company that David Friedberg is doing with the
with the drinks.
The drinks, where everyone's gonna have their own I think it's called
Canna,
I think. But right, where like you have celebrities or you have brands that can have their drink, but then you also can just create your own, and like you could create your own designs and other people can buy them or your own drinks, and it's all, the world is going to be, I think obviously like what's missing is, can everyone have some device in their home or accessible to them that's able to create these things? So like that's the part that isn't quite there yet. But yeah,
like is there a model where you either can have people 3D print things in their home, or is there like a distribution network where you can get things made cheaply enough that you can like get them personalized and then shipped to you? But either way, it's a future that probably will exist, and I think it's very cool that it will exist. And I don't think it could exist before AI. And I think it's just like fascinating to me that these are the types of opportunities that are going to come up.
I agree. And so one version of what that could look like for some sort of clothing, not necessarily more of like the design on things is, and something I've been playing around with in my head is like having some sort of like, stable diffusion model that maybe there's prompts that you can help people to go the direction that they want to go, but then they create their own, like, let's start with like art, right? Like that you can create your own art. And then what I'm thinking is then you choose the size of like the art that you want, you press a button, and then it just gets drop shipped by a print. Like there's already companies out there that will drop ship art and then send it to you. So I feel like that could be an interesting product where people could create their own art. And then I also could see I think that you could have a really interesting product there where not only could you create your own, but then there could be a whole gallery of art that other people have created. And then anytime someone buys art that someone else created, the person who created it could also get a percentage of that sale because they created the prompt for that art. So that's the business I'm playing. Like that would just be a very fun side project to build. And I think I already could build it. And yeah, it would be, I think that would be very interesting. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's really interesting. Two follow-ups. One, did we just like back into creating NFTs? And two,
Well, you don't need cryptocurrency. Well,
it's personalized art. It's unique. The owner gets a royalty. Yeah, there's
but it'll be physical, but physical and no crypto involved. It's not necessary.
Yeah. Okay. The other comment I had that you reminded me of is I follow the founder of Mighty, who's Sue Hale, the founder of Mighty, and he's been creating a lot of really cool art. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have. Paul Graham and Gary Tan have been retweeting it all the time.
Yeah, he just put out another one today. I just texted it to you. It's so good. Like some of the stuff I could totally see people being like, oh wow, that's amazing. I just want that immediately. Go like frame bridge that and turn it into a picture. And I would love that on my wall. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that is really right. Like imagine how cool the art people would make if, and these like this idea isn't new. Like there's sites out there that I think have this exact same concept, but where artists put their own art. But imagine if the creativity that would come if people were making art and uploading. I don't know. I just think it'd be very interesting. And also could be cool if like to get a piece of art in your own apartment that you created through a prompt and you thought it was really cool.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
turning more people into creators. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, and I think that could work for like a t-shirt if you want. Like there's a lot of things and go into like your style idea. I think style is a good one. I was trying to think like I was trying to just think about other actual use cases of AI art that make sense, basically. And yeah, style is a good one.
Yeah, style's one. Like maybe you could come up with something that like one of these artificial music creators that if you're in a specific zone, it'll guess what kind of music you want to listen to and it'll just create it on the fly.
I think music is going to be the next one that comes out and everyone's going to be like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, music's going to be insane when that actually happens. People are going to be like, wait, holy crap. The artist of the year in 2023 is like a made up person and not Taylor Swift. And it's going to blow everyone's minds.
Yeah,
people are going to make movies. I think you're right though, that generally the art sphere is going to be where it all starts.
Art, yeah. But yeah, I think music, like especially things that are like techno or like lo-fi type beats, like all that stuff is going to be, I feel like that's easy for an AI to create something that sounds good.
Yeah.
And then it'll just take in the data of what people are listening to the most, or like it wouldn't be that hard for it to figure out what people like and create more of that. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see how that, I don't know, be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I still predict that we're going to have some deeper conversation about data privacy and people's thoughts on that. I'll just like put my stamp on the ground and say that I think we're going to have that at some point. But it also seems like it was a swing and a miss here. I don't think you think it's as big of a deal as I thought it was.
What, with data privacy and AI specifically?
Yeah, like people changing their minds about a data privacy and being more open to sharing their data if it means that they get these cooler product experiences.
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know. I think where I land on it is I think that those experiences are going to come without sacrificing like the privacy, basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I guess there's a question of like, would people be willing to give that up? I think most people in general, I don't know, probably don't care that much about data privacy in general. Although as a trend, it's probably becoming more and more like something that people want. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the question will be like, can you actually, to your point on training earlier, can you actually create better models and like provide better experiences to people without actually exposing personal data?
Yeah, and I mean, people already do this, right? Like Google, for example, like they're using AI. They're already scraping your calendar, your email, and then recommending you things based on like it's already happening. It's just not something people think about, really.
Yeah, and that's still exposing your data. So I guess like, is there a way that you could do that where they either anonymize your data, which I'm sure like a lot of these companies already do. Like, I don't think anyone's looking at what you and I do specifically, which is why I personally don't care that much about data privacy. Or like, is there a way? Yeah, just like generally, is there a way to plug in your data such that it will like know exactly how to tailor something to you without being able to identify you specifically?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it sounds like maybe not as big of a deal as I thought it was. I thought that was the heat of the day, but
That
apparently
was
not. It's
I
good.
mean,
I got to recalibrate. This is why you bring the heat, and then sometimes it just doesn't land. Sometimes it's like a 3 out of 5 spicy pepper. Sometimes you go to Bontai.
not as hot of a take as you thought it was. That was like a, I don't know. You thought that was like a ghost pepper, and that was more of like a jalapeno.
Yeah, I thought we were going to Bontai, and they were like, "Sorry, there's gonna be a little too spicy for you."
Sometimes it doesn't come out that spicy.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't come out. That's honestly just the beauty of Chef P. Is it's variable. It's homemade. It's just a beautiful thing. So some days I'm just not gonna bring the heat.
I could be missing something too. I don't know. I could totally be missing something.
No, I'll refine that take. We'll come back.
Come back next week.
We'll come back next week. All right, what do you got for me?
All right. Okay. So something I thought was interesting that I watched yesterday just randomly was the Stripe keynote from their like internal conference, Stripe sessions. And it just made me extremely bullish on Stripe, like even more bullish than I was before. They are
When did this come out, by the way? This is this year's
August. It's recent. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
They're doing everything. Like, and it's something I think also the more I work in Stripe, the more I realize like how much they're doing. And really, first of all, I think the first thing, this is just like, okay, a little like breakdown on Stripe of like, I think it could be interesting. The one thing that's interesting that I find about Stripe is it used to be Stripe versus Braintree. Like, I feel like Braintree used to be something that people actually considered. Like when you would go to like at Stripe, once you make a certain amount of revenue, you can go and like negotiate with them and be like, hey, like, can you lower my fee a little bit? And I'm looking at Braintree, and like now I feel like it's not even a real like threat. They know you're not going to Braintree.
They know you're not going.
Which I think like no one really talks about. I think Braintree was bought by PayPal, but I think that was one of the biggest missed opportunities in tech that Braintree had the opportunity to become a real competitor to Stripe, and they dropped the ball there. Like I'm
like
sure,
when.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was going to say this is like. You got it.
I was going to say I'm sure people use Braintree, but I don't know. Maybe they do billions of dollars for PayPal, but it's obviously not Stripe. What were you going to say?
No, okay. So serious comment building on that. It is interesting because I feel like PayPal has a history of buying company or I guess it's the other way around. eBay bought PayPal. PayPal then like grew exponentially under eBay. It did really well in a way where like I didn't think that would actually happen because they were so directly tied to eBay. And you could totally see how eBay with PayPal under their wings would be like, no, we're just going to totally integrate you into our product and then cast you away. But they grew into this behemoth that was even bigger than eBay. You would think that PayPal would take some of the same DNA and be like, all right, we're going to, turn Braintree into this behemoth. And you're totally right that they had the opportunity to. And either we haven't heard about it or they just have not capitalized on it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were doing with it. And they had Venmo, like Braintree bought Venmo. And so they had two amazing companies under their wing. They didn't do anything with that.
Like Venmo also, I think it's a good business for them, but it could have been the Cash App. It could have been way bigger than what it was. It's just interesting. I think that, you can't hit on everything, but in hindsight, it seems like it was a bit of a miss.
Totally. I 100% agree.
Anyway, so yeah, they're doing like, they are in every single part of the payment stack right now. And I don't know, it's crazy. Like when they go public, it's going to be insane. They're going to be a multi-trillion-dollar company. I think they are, just because also like, because I don't know that they have strong competitors. So they almost have a monopoly on payments in a way.
Yeah. Do you think that it's going to, I guess I have a few follow-up questions. One is, when do you think they're going to go public? Two is, I'm curious, like generally about you stumbling onto this like keynote. Is this something that you commonly watch? Is this like, have you watched keynotes of other businesses? And maybe return to those too, but like, I'm curious to hear more about Stripe, because I guess I'd always thought of them as payments. And I generally think of technology companies as, if you spread yourself too thin, then someone's just going to own that specific vertical. So like, how well do you think they're doing in all these different parts that they play in beyond just payments? Do you think that it's going to open up another opportunity for someone like Braintree or another company that's going to start up to say, hey, we're going to like come in we'll win at the beginning because we're going to get better. We're going to give you better terms. We'll take like 2% instead of 3%. How do you think that will go?
I think that's an interesting thought experiment of like, how would you come and disrupt Stripe if you were going to do that? Like, where are their weaknesses? A, when are they going to go public? I don't know. I mean, I really have no idea. I would think at some point soon, you would think so, but I really have no, maybe like, I don't know. What do you think?
I would have thought soon. I mean, right now it just seems like a bad time to go public, but I would imagine probably a
Yeah.
year from now, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
They've just been private for so long.
Yeah, I agree. What was part two?
Part two is, maybe we'll return to part two, but part two is just like how you stumbled upon this. And if you watch
Oh.
other keynotes, I do think, just like related to your comment though, one thing that would deter me as a founder from going against Stripe is I just wouldn't want to compete with the Collison brothers. One, they just have like such a high approval rating, and they're so deeply connected in the Silicon Valley mafia, as we learned very well from Ryan Breslow. But like, honestly, they're just so smart that I don't think it would be a wise move to go against them. And I feel like they've built up this aura of like the kingpins of Silicon Valley. So I'm sure that it's deterring other people from going against them as well. Like, why would you go into payments when you're going against the Collison brothers? That's not the right arena to play in.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like going against Google, like trying to create like a new social, a new Google, basically. Not in the terms of, people think the leadership of Google is that great, more of just like the moat that they have. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if cryptocurrency is potentially, but I mean, even with crypto, like, yeah, if everything moves to cryptocurrency, it still seems like Stripe would play a role in helping businesses like move the money around and people pay. Like, I actually don't know that would be the end of Stripe, even if it did. And I also don't think that's happening anytime soon, or there'll always be some sort of a mix. So I don't know about that. I guess you would think that something like Plaid was potentially a wedge to compete with Stripe. Like, if people are using you for ACH payments, that maybe you could then move into other parts. Because like, I mean, at the end of the day, if someone did come out with a really stable payment solution that had really good documentation and webhooks and all of that stuff, like, probably, I'm just thinking out loud, but I think that for most use cases, I guess Stripe does like the 10% tail end of things really well, though, which are really important to like large businesses. Like, they handle payments in every single country and every single currency, and they help you do tax around that, and they take every single type of payment, and they do all these things that probably make it hard for a larger, like, there's so many things you'd have to do to just get to parity with the point where it would even make sense. I guess first I was thinking maybe someone could compete, but then I went against that.
Yeah. Other than payments, what do you think is like the second and third best thing that they do well? What are their second and third biggest verticals?
Well, is there anything that isn't just some offshoot of payments, basically?
I guess so. But I guess I'm curious because like there were derivative businesses that have grown related to payments that I don't think Stripe owns, or maybe they do at this point, but a ramp type service or a pipe type service where it's like, hey, you have ARR coming in or MRR coming in, we can turn that into a lump sum payment right now. Like you said with Plaid, where it's like integration into all these different financial systems and build it into your app.
So they have Stripe ACH now. They have Stripe Capital, which is basically they will give you money. They'll say, hey, we'll give you $100,000, but we're going to take 10% of all your revenue until we get paid back $110,000. So they do have some level of that, but not exactly like ramp, but they just are using that as a way to loan people. They loan you money, Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what do you think the path is from, they're probably valued at like $100 billion. So what do you think is the path from here to $1 trillion?
I feel like they would be worth more than $100 billion. Do you think they would be worth more than 100 if they?
Well, they probably would be now if they went public. I think that their last round was like 95.
So I think
it'd probably be like 2-3.
Like, if I just go on their website and you look at their products, like, I think that the path to $1 trillion, I mean, I think they're just going to continue making more money just from their core product of payments, because more and more commerce is going to the internet. Basically, every time anyone buys something on the internet, they're probably getting, I don't know what percentage of that they get, but they have a lot of it. I think things like, they have banking as a service is one of their sections on their solutions, like on their product tab on their website. So I think like becoming a bank in a lot of ways. Like they're already loaning money, they have a treasury. Like I think those things are really interesting. Like I think becoming more of like a bank is probably where they might add like another 500 billion, right? Like on top of the 500 billion from their like core revenue now. That's, I don't know. What do you think?
No, that makes sense to me. I don't know the business as well because I don't use them directly. Like I've used them for
Yeah.
payments and invoicing, but not extensively as a business. So I don't use them well enough to actually
Well,
have an
if you ever
opinion
want to
beyond just
watch
like
the
payments.
I'll send you the video here if you ever want to watch it or listen to it.
Sweet. All right, I'm gonna add this to my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, two things I think they've done really well are one, you're like mentioning all of the long tail stuff that they've done to help the largest organizations, but they also like Stripe Atlas, I think is an amazing idea where it's like, okay, we're going to onboard you onto Stripe and then you're never going to need to leave because we handle everything you would possibly need, no matter how big you get.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then two, just like generally making it a super developer friendly company. Like I think they're still to this day the epitome of here's what it looks like to have amazing developer documentation.
Yeah.
And it's the best in class and no one has challenged them, which I think is also like an interesting idea in its own. Like, can you help companies make their documentation as good as Stripes and make it really simple? And is that something that you could offer as a service? I'm sure someone's working on that. But
yeah, I agree.
yeah, I think those two things alone have kept them like one, the number one choice if you're a developer team to want to integrate with a payments company. And then two, like if you're super small, you're going to want to use Stripe. And then if you're super big, you're going to want to use Stripe. So like they win at every single level. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They win at every level. That's also, it makes me feel like that developer documentation generation could be a really good AI use case one day. Because in theory, there's no reason the AI can't look at your code base and know what it does and write English, translate it into English, basically.
Totally. That's something that like could be an offshoot of even GitHub Co-pilot. Like if they have access to your entire code base, why could they not create documentation? Why could they not like document all of your endpoints? Because that's already a lot of what they do. They look at your code and then figure out what either different libraries of code do, and then help you write code to integrate with them without ever having looked at the documentation. And I'm sure they could do the same thing with your code.
Yeah,
why not?
That's $1 billion idea right there. If someone can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, cool.
I continue to be blown away by Copilot, by the way. It's just such a good experience. Yeah, because it just like takes away all the bullshit. I don't have to write like boilerplate code. There's so much I can just like now think about and not have to do because I don't have to like write out all this stuff. I can just press tab and all this code just generates almost perfectly and I can go clean it up.
Interesting. So
I feel so much faster.
I think that hearing you say that makes, because I don't use Copilot or code, like I don't think about it that much, but it makes me feel like Copilot is almost underhyped for how valuable it is to developers.
Totally. It's $10 a month. My company pays for it. I would happily pay for it. I was thinking about this on the treadmill today while I was listening to this podcast with the person who leads GitHub. I would happily pay for it out of pocket. I think they could charge way more, especially because so many companies are paying for it for their employees. Developers are so expensive. So to give them some tools to make them faster or more efficient, like companies should be paying 10 times that amount per developer. And I think they would happily do it.
How much more efficient do you feel like it makes you by using Copilot?
There are two benefits. One, it does probably make me like, at this point, probably like 10% more efficient.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but like that's a significant savings for companies. And it's a significant benefit. Two, it's just like a more pleasant experience to code because I don't have to code bullshit. I get to code. Like I get to build actual stuff.
Yeah. So it's just more fun.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to like if other areas of AI that I did play with the model, but I want to do more of is the Codex GPT-3 model, which is what Copilot uses. And like using that, I was able to create like a quick MVP that wrote SQL queries and it wrote Excel formulas and it did it really well. So I feel like that's an interesting use case of like, I've also been like in my, and while I'm running on the trip, going for a run, that kind of thing, like, oh, like what else could I do with this AI? Like there's going to be really big businesses built on top of these things. So I think, and we're just so early.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I was even crazy idea today. I was wondering if we could just like feed our podcast notes and some episodes of ours into an algorithm and then could just like spit out an episode.
Like create like listen to every episode that like could take a whole like 20 episodes of any podcast and then spit out the 21st episode, but it's sounds like it was real, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can like feed it some notes and be like, all right, here are the topics we want to cover. And then they'll hit it and it'll just like riff.
At some point, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people that listen to personalized podcasts, personalized stories created for them.
Yeah. Dude, AI is wild.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Okay. So I want to return to this. So how did you find this? And I'm also just curious generally about how you use YouTube and like what kind of stuff you watch. Because I've slowly gotten into YouTube and I think it's like the best thing ever. But I know that you were way earlier in the game than I was, and you probably use it way more extensively than I do.
First, do you have YouTube Premium?
Yeah, like must have. You got to have it. 100%.
Not even a question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best $16 to spend every month. You got to do it.
Okay, cool. So, because it's not really usable without YouTube Premium.
You got to have it.
I don't know. I think a lot of it, the algorithm does a good job of recommending things. Sometimes, I don't know. I probably can be more intentional about like, I think watching like company keynotes and things like that is probably a good way. Like, and that's probably there's a lot of free, really interesting information out there. But yeah, I think a lot of it, like their algorithm is quite good, I feel like, in terms of suggesting you information. I love using YouTube to find like different cooking recipes and things like that. Like I find that's one of like my favorite things to do with YouTube. I don't know. I think one thing that I find interesting actually is okay, YouTube Shorts is like the TikTok that YouTube is creating. And I heard about the numbers and I think they are doing like almost as many, or by now they might have more active viewers on Shorts, daily active viewers, than TikTok even does.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's really like they've done a really good job with it. But I feel like it's made me want to go on YouTube less actually, because it's like, I don't know, those videos just don't, it's like eating candy as opposed to reading a book. And I always thought YouTube was much better. Like, so I don't know. That's something maybe there's a way I can just turn them off on my YouTube app or something, but that's something I've just noticed I thought was interesting to comment on.
No, I honestly haven't seen any shorts. Like they either never make it into my feed or I just haven't found them and don't spend enough time on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I don't have an opinion on that, but I'll try out a few of them. I think it'll probably be exactly what you're saying. And honestly, just like listening to the way, so a couple of reactions. One is listening to the way that people talk about shorts right now. It feels like they're leaning on them for engagement and just like trying to promote either their podcast or whatever they're doing through YouTube. And it's clearly like driving engagement in a way that's like not necessarily real or trying to like inform you of anything beyond just like, oh, this is a good way to engage and for us to build an audience, make money. And so I think probably there's something messed up there, where if that's how companies are using it, and that's a gross generalization just based on like hearing Sam Parr talk about it. But
look, we should be promoting our episodes on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. Like it would be good for our growth, right? And there are a lot of people that are doing it, and it works, like you said. Like
wait, hang tight, my audio cut out 1 second.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Hey, sorry, my audio cut out while you're talking about that. I heard you say we probably should, and then that's it.
Oh, I was just saying that like if we were doing if we were putting our clips on YouTube Reels and Instagram Reels and TikTok, like I'm sure it would,
yeah, we'd be doing it too.
We're gonna get addicted to it once we try it out. Once we get a taste.
Once we get a little lick, we're gonna want to eat the rest of the
cone. Maybe we just need to find the guy that's doing the TikToks for My First Million and just hire them to do it for our podcast.
Henry Belcaster, if you're listening.
Is that him?
I think it's the same guy who does All In. Yeah, they talk about him all the time.
Oh yeah, we got to get the best. We got to get.
We go straight to the top on our $100 a month budget.
Does that guy even like get paid, or he does it for free for the love of the game?
No, I think he's making a killing right now.
Is he?
Now
he does it for all the. He probably does it for all the top podcasts now. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, because like once you get All In, you get MFM. Every business podcast is going to want you. I'm sure he's killing it right now.
Yeah. We waited too long.
Yeah. It was interesting that you mentioned this disparity between like reading a book and, actually I had a different comment, but I think it is interesting because I feel like YouTube is something that before I started using it, thought of as entertainment. It really is so informative. Like I think it's probably the best platform to just like, whether you're finding a recipe, like you said, if you want to just watch a keynote, I feel like I learned so much from YouTube.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's so good. And the other thing, I was curious how you found the keynote, because I know the acquired guys always talk about how they're like these 100 view keynotes. You get to hear directly from like the CFO of Spotify, Barry McCarthy. You just get to hear like directly from Barry. 100 people have seen this. And it's such a treasure. So I don't know if it was something that you sought out directly or if it just like made its way into your feed.
That was more just made its way into my feed, but right, like this keynote has 3,000 views. It's not that many views,
which is wild.
Which is yeah. So it's probably worth being a little more intentional. Like those are the things also that the algorithm isn't going to show you, but you're going to have to look up and be like, oh, this person is interesting. I feel like it's the kind of thing where if you come across an interesting person or you're reading about someone, then you can look them up on YouTube and see if they have any like content that you can hear them talk. But I agree.
Yeah. I think what's hard for me is I feel like I listen to so many podcasts, and right now what I've done is I've curated like, here are the people that I want to listen to every week. And I have those people in my podcast feed. So my reaction is if I want to like be informed by something or learn something, I go to Spotify, find the podcast I want to listen to, and I load it up. But I could probably use YouTube for the same thing. Like I could just load up some videos. I just think it would take more intention from me to go set that up, subscribe to other people, get those people in my feed, and then get it to a point where it's just as easy as me going to Spotify to just go to YouTube and load those up.
Yeah.
But I just haven't invested in that yet.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else?
What do you got next?
Here are the 3 things that I wrote down. One was you were chatting about it a little bit before the pod. You mentioned that you started reading Amp It Up. And I was curious about applying what he's learned to a one-person business. Like, how do you feel like you are, and I know you're only 20% of the way in, so I don't know how you were thinking about applying it back to your businesses. Maybe I'll tell you about the 3 ideas and you can tell me which one you want to chat about.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2 was, I don't know if we've ever directly talked about this, and I just like found myself wondering what your career goals are. And so I was just curious, like, I just wanted to hear from you. I was just curious what they were. Yeah. Because I have an idea of what you want to be doing for a while, but I haven't heard it from you directly and we haven't chatted about it. Yeah. The third was just like a general reflection I've had recently about how hard it is to make friends. And I feel like there have been so many hokey ideas that have come out, like Tinder for friends, and you can swipe on a friend group and, but still, I feel like the best thing to do is just to like get set up by a friend of a friend, especially if you move to a new city. And it's hard to meet people. So I was just curious, like, to chat more about that. I don't know if you've done anything that works, but you can pick which of the 3.
Yeah. I mean, all really interesting, actually great topics. Well, we can touch on them all quickly. For number 3, I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. That could be an interesting like topic that we like go deeper on one episode of like, I mean, it doesn't have to be a business, but whether it's a business or like I don't know. I feel like the best thing is probably to like go to like, if you like running, doing a running club or doing those types of things. I feel like what are your interests? And then like, that's what I would think. I don't know. If you have any ideas, let me know. Because it is like, it's not easy.
I was comment on that one really quickly. So I had the same thought, which is like, I'm interested in chess. I should find a chess club. And so I Googled chess club Miami and I found one. And then I go to the website. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to go sign up. And it's like for 12-year-olds. So
hey, you can still make a bunch of friends. You gotta look up adult chess club in Miami. Yeah, you're gonna go to like the chess club that I was a part of in elementary school. The South Miami Chess Club. Is that what you looked up?
Yep.
Are you sure that
exactly? Maybe it wasn't that one. Maybe I found one in Midtown, but whatever it was like for 12-year-olds, and definitely not for me.
Wait, I think I found one that's. Let me look at photos. Let's see their website. There's definitely some children in these.
Because here's the 2 reasons I was thinking about this.
This one's all ages. Hey, the kids are good at chess.
Actually, send that one to me because maybe I do need to sign up. It's all ages.
No, this looks like mostly children.
All the pictures of a kid.
There are adults there though too, so it's a little unclear.
Okay, so here are the 2 reasons I was thinking about this. One was I got set up on a couple's date that I went on with Sammy and another couple 2 weekends ago. Sagar set us up. It was a friend of a friend, and we get there. It was kind of like funny how similar it is to dating. Like Sammy and I got in the car afterward, and we were like, do we have chemistry? What do you think of them? Would you ever hang out with them again? Do you think we'd go on a second date? Yeah. And the answer is probably no. Like if you're asking the questions and you probably are not going to go hang out again. Still, I think it was like the right thing to be doing. We should be getting out there. We should be going out with people. So I want to do more of that. It's just hard to figure out ways to do that without having your friends go out of your way to be like, oh, I've got a buddy in Miami, you should go hang out with him.
Totally. Yeah. No, I was just thinking like, no, I agree. I feel like something around activities makes sense. Like if there's some app that like helps you go find someone to play golf with or to do play chess or to do these things, like that makes sense to me. It's probably just hard to get the a critical mass of people, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's hard. I don't know. Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about today, we were flying back from DC to Fort Lauderdale, and Sam and I booked the window and aisle in our row, thinking like either someone's not going to book the middle seat, or if they do, then we're just going to be able to trade with them really easily. And so we asked this guy, he's like an older guy, if you want to switch with us. He says, yep. And then he starts talking to us the entire plane ride. Super nice guy. He's looked fantastic. He's 82. He probably looked like he was 62. And he was just like this old Jewish guy that we talked to, got his phone number, and he invited us over for wine with him and his wife. So the other is just like, you never know who you chat with, but it's always good to schmooze with people. Like you never know. I think it's just good to, yeah, it's more just like, and I'm going to be honest, he did all the work here. Like this is not, hey, Matt, you did a great job. Would have like talked to this guy. I even took a nap for part of the flight. He just was like committed to talking to everybody on this flight. And so I think it was just a good lesson. Like if you want to meet people, you're not going to meet people if you're quiet. You should like talk to people and say hi.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
very
good point.
So I thought it was a good life lesson. Thank you, Steve. Steve Greenberg. Shout out to you.
That's great. Okay, going backwards. So I think I would love to hear your thoughts too on yourself with your career goals. I think I think that I don't know, it's always something that's evolving. Like I don't really have I'm sure my answer today will be different in 2 years or 3 years. But I think in general, I just like being creative and starting companies and like being able to have control over like my time and what I'm working on. And I think seeing like my own skills compound and like always being able to like have something new to learn and building that into like the skill set and toolbox. And yeah, it's just really fun to like build something from scratch that other people use. I think in general, just being able to continue doing that like in some capacity, at least for the next few years. And then every year I want to reassess and say, okay, like what direction do I want to go in? But that's where I am now.
Yeah, figured that. I just never asked you directly. And you know, you're like always the type of person we'll have 5 different ideas cooking, and you got like 3 that are making money, and then like a 4th that you're actively working on at the moment. And it's really cool. It's like very inspiring to me to see what you're up to and be like, wow, this guy's deeply in the artistic and creative process, and he's always thinking of something new. But I didn't know how far that extended. Is the empire going to be like 100 companies wide? And I just didn't know. So I was just curious to ask you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know. I think there's probably some limit of like a few, you know, I don't know where it's going to go eventually. It'll go wider or maybe eventually just go deeper on 1 or 2. But as of now, just trying to grow what I have and see what happens from it. Yeah. What about you?
It's something I think I'm going to change my mind about. Not change my mind about. I'm going to have deeper thoughts about exactly what I want to be doing over the next few years. But my current path is I do want to start another business. I want to invest in building up my technical skill set in the meantime. I probably want to be the technical leader of that business. Like probably not the CEO. I think I could be a CEO. I'm not sure I want to. Very similar to you though. Like I just love building stuff. I want to be as deeply involved in the strategy and decisions behind what we're building and the actual building of the product as possible and maximize the amount of time I spend there, but be like the leader and founder of businesses. And right now I just feel like I want to get more technical, and I'm investing in that by being an engineer. But I do think that like give it a year, because I really love engineering. Like it activates a part of my brain that makes me really happy. The like solving puzzles, building products, that side of my brain. It totally deactivates the like business strategy, product development side of my brain that I also really love. So something that marries the two, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what that looks like, but it probably will look like starting another business.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, I don't think anything quite activates both sides of your brain of business and technology than starting a technology business. Like otherwise you're in one, you're going to be one direction or the other direction at a job. Like generally, if you're not starting a company, you have a job, and that job is going to be a little bit more focused on one facet of a business. So it makes sense.
But this is a theory I'm going to test over the next couple of years, but I have a theory that probably you need to be a small company in order to be able to maximize your time on both. Otherwise, your time inevitably slips into managing people and building culture and all those things, which are good and exciting, but like not purely product development. And at least at this point in my life, I don't think I want to spend that much time on them. I'd rather focus on
Yeah.
product. But yeah, I don't know. I also may change my tune about that too.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think something that appeals to me, like that Sean from My First Million talks about, is like thinking of your career in like seasons. And I think like, right now I'm in the season of building a bunch of different products and growing them. And like maybe the next season is like there could be so many different things that like one season could be like trying to be a CEO and building culture and building a big business and raising money. Like that could be a season. Like investing could be a season. Like just being more like a season could be just like learning guitar and becoming like starting a band, right? There could be like so many, I don't know, just like random things that I think I don't necessarily know that I'll be doing the same thing for the rest of my career, but I think switching around would be fun too.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah, cool.
You
All
got
right.
Slootman?
I think we got to end on Slootman.
Yes. The Church of Slootman.
Well, we should talk about it. I do recommend the book. I don't know how many, it's hard to say you should read this book because everyone has their list and like of books to read, but so far it's been really good. I'm going to read more tonight. I think the biggest takeaway is like, I don't know. I think the takeaway is you can do more than you think you can if you put in the effort. And like it's like running a race, right? If you run that race like you're actually trying to win the race, then you're going to go faster. And it seems like his whole philosophy is like getting everyone in the company to be trying to win the race and think of it as a real competition. And if they don't win, then someone else is going to win. And I don't know, like that doesn't, like I don't think his mentality has to your question of like applying that to a one person business or a small business, like it's actually not applicable. I don't think like it's applicable to large businesses where you're trying to grow it as big as possible. It's probably not really the right strategy for a one person or a small business. I think my takeaway though is like, okay, where are there areas where I could be pushing things fast so far? That's my so far takeaway. Like, okay, maybe I could push certain things faster, or like, how can I think bigger to the point where like, oh, I should be hiring someone more quickly to experiment with this. And like, I think that's how I'm thinking, like getting more cycles more quickly. But yeah, that's at least my initial thoughts on it.
No, I like that. I just moved it up to the top of my queue. So I told you I was reading Invent and Wander right now, which is all the shareholder letters from Amazon. Maybe I'll chat about it when we do carve outs in a second, but
Yeah.
I definitely want to start reading this. So I'll start it tonight. The other is just thinking about like productivity, and it sounds like a lot of just like getting the right people in the organization and getting people who are aligned with that in and keeping them there and empowering them, and then getting everyone out who just like wants to be slow and doesn't really care about being on the hardest charging team, which is not for everybody, and it's totally fine. But it made me think a lot about my own experience at my company right now, where I was telling you before, a lot of people are maybe not a lot, some people are getting kicked out. And it's honestly a really good feeling for someone like me who wants to move fast, where the people who are there are really good performers, and we don't have to drag along the people who are poor performers, or the people who don't want to move fast. And I had this reflection on specifically engineers, and I had a conversation about it with another engineer this week. What I'm learning quickly, and like this could be wrong because it's only my opinion, but I feel like engineers are split into two camps. One is computer scientists and one is engineers. Computer scientists want to sit and like theorize about the best way to do something and figure out what the right system is, look at all the different developer tools and like use this specific one, figure out which like program you want to use to go in and like check errors in your code. They want to like sit and theorize about stuff all day. And then there are engineers who are just like, while you were talking about that, I already built the product. It works. And I would so much rather be an engineer, like on the camp of people who just like build stuff and maybe don't focus as much on, like theorizing or on performance, which I think those people have a role, but I just don't want to be part of that conversation. But two, I find that like a lot of the best performers in my company, at least according to me, are people who are engineers who just like sit and build stuff, and not the people who sit around and theorize. And one way you can split the two camps and at least tell with engineering, which I find really interesting, is if you go on Git, you can see insights on how much code have people added to the code base or subtracted, and how many like commitments have they made to the code base, how many like changes have they made to the code base. So you can see there are people like, I've made more commits than some people that joined 6 months ago and I joined a month ago. And that's not to say I'm like amazing, but I think that it's interesting when you can actually see, especially with engineering, like how are people performing? How much are people doing? And then you can match that with what you're actually experiencing on Slack and on calls. Yeah. So it's made me think a lot about engineers and like what types of engineers I want to work with in the future, how to build a good engineering org. So I just found it was something I've been thinking about a lot recently.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And it totally applies to, building a larger engineering organization or working with other people. And like, no, it makes sense. I feel like it's like, it could apply to other parts of a business too. It's like, are you going to sit around theorizing about what marketing plan to do? Or are you just going to go out and do one and see if it works and learn from it and iterate? Like it's just like, how quick can you move?
Yeah. And I think the ideal is you can do both. Like you both are conceptually fantastic and like actually can implement it and do it really well.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find those people though. And I think that given that it's hard to find those people, and if you have to make a trade-off between the two, I'd rather bias toward let's try things and get data rather than let's like theorize and then potentially not even get the same result.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah. One thing it actually did make me, so like the book is making me think about more as I'm like transitioning now. So I've been building Conference Tap, which is an event app platform for virtual and in-person events. And I'm transitioning now from building it, and there's still some stuff to build, and there will be always more things to build, obviously, but transitioning from building to selling, I'm thinking about how can I move as fast as possible with selling to learn as quickly as possible, like what I need to do. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna like, how do I think about sending out cold emails or doing testing Google ads and like testing all these things? And I want to try and do inspire me to push a little bit faster than I probably would have otherwise. But yeah, and doing that. And then also like thinking about no code MBA. And like for a while, I've been saying I want to like hire someone to help with a lot of the marketing things. And I want to try and push ahead. And it inspired me to try and push ahead and really try and make that happen. So like doing those types of, like, I think making things happen is the inspiration I'm getting so far from the book.
Cool. I think you're still too far in for me to be like, what progress have you made on that? But I'll ask you about that in a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So come prepared.
Cool.
Come with results. Cool, man. I thought this was
Awesome.
good. I like this one. It's a good pod.
Yeah, me too. Any carve outs, or I mean the carve outs are also the episode, but yeah.
Yeah, the carve outs were the episode. I have two quick ones. One was I just mentioned Invent and Wander.
Yeah.
Which I thought was it's really good. It's like all
I
the
bought it.
shareholder letters.
It's on the way.
Yeah, nice. And I think it's gonna be especially good for you as a coffee table book. Like you got the hardcover. It's gonna be so nice.
For anyone listening, it's only $4 on Amazon right now.
Unbelievable
Best
deal.
deal on Amazon. I was like, is Amazon just discounting that so that people buy the Jeff Bezos? Is Jeff subsidizing that book?
He might. Yeah, I don't know exactly what his involvement was with the book, but the staggering thing I find is like I've read the 1997 shareholder letter and I've read a couple since then, some of the recent ones. Seeing the progress from year to year, especially in 97 and 98, this is like before the dot-com bubble burst, and they have meaningful revenue and it's exploding every year. It's just like staggering to look at it back to back.
Yeah.
And I'm only through, I think I'm up to 2003, but it's just so good. It also inspired me to want to get better at writing. I just think he's such a good communicator. And obviously that's like a huge part of the Amazon culture, just to like everything's a memo, nothing's a PowerPoint. They have the 6-page documents. It just made me want to be a better writer. So I actually have had in the back of my mind that I want to take a power writing course.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to anytime soon, but I want to. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah.
I
feel like I like the idea in general of, I like the idea of like every quarter or like half a year, like taking some sort of a class that's like just something you're interested in that you want to do. I like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I already went into $60,000 worth of debt doing that. So why not just add a little more? Why not just sprinkle a little bit on top?
Like, I really like the idea of like some sort of a program that I could go to and like take classes about business and with other people. I like that idea.
It's a good idea. It's a good use of 2 years. Carve out, go to business school. The other one is there's a really cool outdoor movie theater called the Rooftop Cinema Club in Miami Beach. And so I went and saw a movie with Sammy a couple weeks ago, and it was awesome. It was probably my favorite thing that we've done recently. It was super fun. Just a beautiful night, really cool screen, really good atmosphere. They have like games and drinks and everything. It was great. So when you're down here, we can go.
Cool. Awesome.
Good movie. Awesome. All right, cool. What do you got?
All right. First, if you haven't already read the text messages that got leaked from the Elon trial with Twitter, amazing.
So good. So amazing. Good.
I feel like actually, oh, and then I have another one as well. Okay, so yeah, I think that was amazing. My takeaway from that, I don't know, it's just interesting to see these people like, I don't know, it's like they don't really seem to have that big of a plan. Like I just think
Just like, wouldn't this be cool? And they're like, yeah, let's go do it. That's kind of it. That's the extent of the thinking.
for real, which is crazy.
You're like, can I count you in for $10? How's 2 billion?
That I thought was hilarious.
Larry Ellison.
No, oh yeah, Larry's like, okay, so Elon's like, are you in? And Larry goes, yes, I'm in for 1 billion or whatever you think. And Elon goes, well, it's filling up really quickly, so how about 2 billion? It's like, Elon, that doesn't, like, if it's filling up quickly, why do you need 2 billion from like,
Also, just the amount of money they can throw around. Like, we're just like, hey, you want to like up the increase our buy-in for a fantasy football league from like $100 to $150? They're like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, also there were some great moments from that. Also, did you read the text where some guy messaged Elon and texted him and was like recommending him some person to lead engineering, and Elon was like, no, like I want engineers, like I don't want management. And the guy's like, who's going to lead it? Elon's like, I will be overseeing engineering. Which is just hilarious. Is he really going to have time to oversee? And then the guy responds with, oh, I know a couple people who are really deep in engineering. Like my son is at Reddit. And it's like, okay, now you're just plugging your son to try and get a job at, like.
That's so funny.
But,
meanwhile, this guy is now like trying to de-escalate the war in Ukraine. Like, what does he have time for? How does he do it all?
Apparently,
you know what this guy's doing
all night last night thinking about how to de-escalate the war in Ukraine. I don't know. Yeah.
This man is amping it up. He's just amping it up to another level. Frank Slootman would be so proud.
Oh, he would be. Yeah. Okay. Other carve out. I sent you this tweet. I thought it was interesting. It's by this guy, Michael. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It starts with a K, and he was the founder of Skillshare. I actually just listened to him. I follow his newsletter, which is actually a good newsletter. I'd recommend it. Because right now, like it seems like he like isn't really working on it. He's figuring out what to do next. So I just listened to a podcast with him. He went to UVA, interestingly.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he went to UVA. But his thought, it was random Sunday morning thought, is it possible to bootstrap / self-fund and build a $100 million revenue business? I think so. Here's how I would do it. I just think that's an idea that for everyone who's interested, you could go look up the tweet, but that's just an idea that we've been talking about. I think we've been talking about that for years of like, is this possible? And I think I also think yes. And I think as software becomes easier and easier to create, whether it's through Co-pilot or no-code tools or all these things, and as so many more parts of a business, of like the business stack, get productized, I think that makes it easier and easier for something like that to happen. I just thought that was an interesting tweet.
Totally. No, I loved it when you sent it to me. It was a great tweet.
Yeah. And the art's
like,
oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go for it.
No, I was gonna move on.
No, I was just gonna co-sign what you said. This is exactly what we've been thinking about for the past few years. So I think it's definitely coming. Like, totally to your point. I think there's so many tools out there to make it easier. But yeah, I love it for that reason too.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, finally, Arc, great browser. Thank you for recommending it. I feel like I'm still like getting used to it with my workflow, but yeah, appreciate that invite.
Yeah, of course, man. I really like it. I still feel like I don't use a quarter of the features that they have, and I just think it's a delightful product experience.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Talk soon, man.
Awesome. All right. Talk to you later. Have a good night.
See ya.
See ya.
You too, man. See ya.
Bye.